So this is another C4H interview. So today I have two ladies, Shannon. So Shannon, say hi.
Hi.
And Celia, say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah. So I'll start by asking you, what got you to get interested in product design?
Well, while doing my A levels, I realized I really like drawing myself, and also I wasn't bad at maths. I like maths, so then I felt like, maybe product design is something that I can use both of my skills. So I was researching on what kind of courses can apply like my creative skills as well as my like maths skills. So I found out that product design might be the perfect choice for me. So I chose product design.
Okay. How about you, Sheldon?
Yeah, so initially I was gonna go for like urban planning, but so it's because I think there was this presentation there was someone that came into my school about a presentation on how he designed a product that helped save lives in the Philippines. And so he mentioned that he did urban planning, so that's what I thought that I really enjoyed it. And then I realized as I did design in A levels that actually it's the problem solving process I like rather than urban planning itself. So I kind of switched into product design, and also because I also did maths, and I think that it's a nice combination of like design and maths. So I chose product design for my degree.
Okay, all right, cool. So from your perspective, what is product design?
For me, I think it's about problem solving and designing a product that helps improve someone's lives, no matter how big or small a market is, because designing a product can help anyone in some ways.
Okay, cool. How about you, Celia? From your perspective, what do you think product design is? If anyone were to ask you on the street, what is product design? What would you say?
I think my thought on product design kind of changed throughout like the year studying it. I felt like it's recognizing a need from the market or like a demand, and then designing for the demand. So it's not necessarily that it has to like save the world or something like that, but it could be just maybe a small portion of people wanting something, and there's a need, and solve that need.
Okay, that's cool. All right, cheers for sharing that. So let's talk about your learning journey for a bit. So you made that decision that you want to study product design, and you decided to study in the UK. So why the UK?
Well, first, it's a very common option for students from Hong Kong to study in the UK. Okay. I think it's very highly recognized globally, like UK education first, and also like comparatively the cost of studying is cheaper than like, let's say, America relatively. Okay. So I would say and also I did my A levels in GCSE in the UK, so I'm familiar with the UK. Okay,
all right, cool. How about yourself, Shannon?
Yeah, so I also did A levels. Well, it's kind of just because I wanted to do A levels rather than IB, because I don't know if you know anything about IB. It's really hard. But it's not that it's really hard. It's that comparatively, like when you have two options, it's a lot easier to do A levels. And it's a lot easier to get into uni with A levels rather than IB, because the requirements for A levels are easier, especially in the UK. So that's one thing that I considered, and also that for design, Hong Kong isn't really a great place for design, because it's not a subject that's really recognized. Because in Hong Kong, like the arts, like music or like design, sports, stuff like that is considered as like a secondary subject, so that people don't really look upon them highly. Okay. So comparatively, I think in the UK it's a lot more open-minded on these subjects.
Okay. All right, cheers for that. All right, so let's talk about your experience. So you've come to the UK, you've come to your first year to study product design. So what were the things that you found culturally challenging? I mean, what were the things that you found Okay, this is a bit different to the norm in comparison to your experience doing your A levels. So what would you say about that?
Definitely the first change that I realized was just how close the lecturers and like teachers are to us compared to what it was in A levels.
Okay, so at least you had that, at least a bit more interaction with tutors. Okay,
and also speaking up and then like thinking, kind of, how do I say, like the independence that you have in uni is very different to A levels.
Okay. How about yourself, Shannon?
I think it was quite in line with my A levels. So, because I think I had more tutor interactions in A levels than in uni. So more advice was given to me on my individual project in uni. But then one thing is that because my A level course is 3D design, it's not actually product design. It's more art based. So like all the teachers at school were more arty rather than like more practical people on product design. So this is, I think, a lot more different, is that it's more focused on the practicality of the product rather than the appearance.
Oh, okay.
In uni.
Okay, all right, cool. So what were some of the things that you enjoyed when you were studying the first year? So the things that you enjoyed and the things that not too much, if you could put in that context. And did it change your perception of product design coming into uni, or did it kind of like consolidate what you thought product design was more or less was?
Really, in my first year, because I don't actually draw that much like before uni, and like watching the progress of improving like my drawing skills and like CAD skills, like watching kind of how my rendering skills developed from before uni until like now, it's a really nice thing to look upon. It's I think the whole uni journey really consolidated my view on product design, so it's really the same as what I expected.
Okay, all right, cool. And how about yourself, Celia?
I would say it's different to how I expected, because I feel like how to say, because the first year was quite tough for me for how many like modules we had to do and how much like coursework at the same time we have to like learn, which I found quite difficult at the same, like to manage everything at the same time. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of universal. Being in a situation whereby you've got a lot of information and work coming your way, and you have to, balance all that out with your, social life and everything. So that's one of the challenges. So I think that's one of the good reasons why, in terms of like most universities, the first year is more or less seen as a learning ground. So that at least you learn from your deficiencies, and you then develop the needed skills to be able to meet up with the challenges that the second year and the final year will present. All right, so that's cool. All right, so you've now gone through like the first year, the second year, and you've more or less completed your final year at this stage, if we're being honest. So did you guys do placements?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did an exchange.
Oh, you did an exchange. Okay. Right. So if I were to ask you, because again, when it comes to the mindset in terms of your thinking and your approach when it comes to design, what is your own personal philosophy when it comes to design in terms of your design thinking? So if you're, let's say, given a design problem, what are the sequences of events that you need to consider from establishing what the problem is to being able to realize that? So again, if you want to reflect on the thinking process that you use for your own final year design project, feel free to do so.
Definitely is to understanding what needs there is from users and the people, actually. Like not just jumping into conclusion that, oh, they must need this because they are this, but actually like understanding and researching into like what they actually need is probably what is most important to me in design.
Okay. How about yourself, Shan?
Yeah, so I agree with Celia that like for the main focus of my FYDP, it's about understanding the problem. But then when I did my placement in design consultancy, I think the most, because we're designing for clients, like sometimes these companies have their own like set brand language. So in that case, it'll be understanding their product line and how and kind of what design language they have currently, and then how to implement those design languages into their new products, which I was designing for them.
Okay. Right. So what will all of that entail then, at least from your perspective? Let's say you've got, let's say, some form of client brief, client requirements. How would you go about exploring that to truly identify what the true intention of the brief is? So what things you need to do? What things you need to undertake towards that?
Oh, you mean for discovering what the brief is, like for FYDP?
Anything.
Or
Yeah, so anything. So at least from your perspective.
So I think it's about looking at what problems there are and then ranking the problems from like the most important to the least important to solve. And then you start ideating on like solutions for each problem, and then kind of pick and choose from them and then combining into one final solution.
Okay, that's interesting. How about you, Celia?
So the question is,
would you follow like the say as? Do you have like a similar methodology to that, or do you have something that's slightly different?
As in how to find out what's the true solution to a design.
So I mean, how do you go about exploring to get a deep understanding in terms of what a client or a given brief is supposed to be the central point of focus? Do you ideate first before you go into, let's say, investigate the problem a bit further? What is your own personal, what works for you?
Well, me personally, I think communication is really important. So like actually, I think a full and like thorough understanding of what the problem is what I would prefer before like jumping into any ideation. Because if let's say I've designed something already before I actually understanding the problem, it might be wasted because it might not be useful at all.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so that's interesting because again, I think it's very important, at least for me anyway, just to understand, at least from individual designers, where their perspective is. Because again, you do have like, let's say, the standardized approach of events. Okay, so the one that everybody's more or less familiar with is, okay, you first need to understand the user, so to say, before you start coming up with ideas relating to what you've identified from the user's perspective. Then you decide on, okay, how do you go about developing that idea before you test and come up with the final solution. But the main thing is this chain of thought set in stone, so to say. So it's always good to kind of look at, okay, what everybody's philosophy is. I mean, what are the things that at least works for you, and what are the things that you feel that, contradicts the norm, that is much more of an efficient way of thinking. So it's always kind of like good to at least see it from at least a student's perspective and from a professional's perspective. So just for that. So what about FYDP? So what did you actually work on for your final year design project?
So my project is to try and improve food preparation for people who have dysphagia. So what dysphagia is that some people have difficulty in swallowing.
Okay. And
so I started out looking at research on what dysphagia is and kind of like the deep down analysis of, because there are different kinds of dysphagia, and I just kind of looked into all the different kinds. And so I also looked into some existing cases of dysphagia, and then did some expert interview on kind of food requirements of these patients. And so I started out, as I said before, working out all the problems that these people have, and then sort of slowly ideating for each problem. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of one of the experts, did it include people in the medical field too?
This not really, because it's a home use product, so it wasn't really a medical based product. So it's kind of something in between. So the thought process was more onto the food rather than the medical side.
Okay. And is it for all types of foods, or specific type of foods depending on the texture?
So because they have a difficulty in swallowing, they have this standard of what kind of level of consistency of food they should have.
Okay.
And this is told to the patients by kind of the speech therapist on kind of what level of consistency they should take. And so my solution was a capsule machine that prepares these foods from food capsules. So like what you'd get from coffee capsule machines, where you have a capsule with the food in it, and then you add hot water into it, and then mix it to make the food.
Okay.
Out of it. So my product was directed to like level 1 to level 4 consistencies, which are like more watery kind of food. Yeah, whereas they have like level 5 to 7, which is like something that's a bit thicker, but still keeps like the normal food consistencies, whereas like the ones I'm working on is like really like pureed stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that seems interesting. Okay. How about Sina, what did you work on for your final year project?
So my project is a used cooking oil to soap converter. So it makes soap from used cooking oil.
Making salt out of cooking oil?
Soap, like
soap.
liquid,
Okay.
so like hand washing soap and stuff.
Okay, all right. So I'll say, well, okay, that's a new one. Right, so what did that all entail? What was the inspiration behind choosing that project?
Yeah, so I did my exchange in a university in Tokyo that was like partnership with Loughborough, and in the classes I realized how serious they take recycling and like rubbish into consideration, like compared to the UK. And I realized like it's actually illegal to dispose oil in Japan, and compared to the UK, and then but people like in the UK always most of them don't know how to dispose oil. They pour it down the sink or toilet, which like blocks like the sewage and stuff. So with that problem, I was thinking like, oh, what can the used cooking oil be made into? And then I found out that soap might be useful. And then within that line, I've developed the product now.
Okay. So what was the so how do you go about working on this particular problem, leading to a solution?
Well, first of all, I searched into what the oil could actually be made into, and what kind of methods can make it like possible, and found out that soap is the like most doable option. And with that, I was like researching more into how soap is made, and like what kind of soap can I make, and what kind of oil, and like different kind of stuff, which I did a lot of research on to come into solution of what I have now.
Okay. Right. Cheers for sharing that. So in terms of, okay, so you've gone through the process, you've investigated. Did you have to speak to different user groups and things like
that? Yeah. I did user testing on because basically my product, it's intended for use by community. So basically it's everyone, like students or like child or like adults. And my user testing, I had like people from different age group and to like try out how my machine would go. But that's not a functioning component that I've tested. I've tested the functional component separately, but yeah. And also I've done questionnaire with people online who like knows how to make soap or don't know how to make soap, which I found different like insights of.
Okay. So what's like the general soap making process? So for instance, in terms of like the base, the oil base, does it apply to all the types of cooking oils available on in UK markets?
Yeah, basically, olive oil, vegetable oil, everything can be made in soap.
Okay.
The main thing is to use something called a lye solution, which is sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide to mix with it to make the soap. So yeah.
And how accessible is that?
You mean how accessible is the lye solution?
Yes.
Buy it in any supermarket, Wilco,
Right.
anything.
Okay, all right, cool. Because again, it's quite interesting because again, if we're looking at the type of demographic that are more likely to discard oil, because what a lot of people don't really know is that you can actually contain the oil and take it to the recycling center. There are units down there that are responsible in disposing cooking oil safely, waste cooking oil safely. But a lot of people don't really know. So again, is there like an impact in terms of demographic, in terms of class, in terms of education and things like that? So I think that's quite interesting. So